Hello everyone, this is our second video in the series of learning about ratios in the chapter number 25. This is our second video where in the first one we've spoken about the profitability measures. Now we will be learning the activity measures. So activity, as the name suggests, it's talking about the activities of the business. How is the business managing its activities? What does a business do? It produces goods, it sells them to customers may not always be buying for cash, they may take it on credit, so there will be receivables. Sometimes when you're also buying from other parties, maybe you're also taking credit from your suppliers, so you have payables with you. Inventory you have with you, that how long does it take for you to produce the inventory and actually go out and sell it in the market. So this is what activity measures are going to tell you. They tell you how easily the organization can convert the things that they have, for example receivables, payables, inventory, into cash or sales. So basically it tells you how efficient the organization as a whole is. Now first ratio that you see on your screen is the asset turnover ratio, and the formula also you see is revenue, that means your sales divided by your capital employed. So basically it tells you how much sales are you able to generate from the capital that you have employed in the business. So in general, what's the rule? Organizations should try to have a high asset turnover. That means with the money that is put into the business, that should be able to generate a good amount of sales for you. Number two that you see over here is the receivables collection period. The formula again is receivables, and in the denominator, you talk about the reason why these receivables are there. So these receivables have arisen because you've sold goods on credit. So what you're trying to find out, divided by the reason that they exist, multiplied by the number of days. So receivables collection period basically tells you that how long do your customers take to make the payment. So if this is a very high number of days, then the organization is losing out on interest, which they could have otherwise have earned from the bank if they were putting it into a fixed deposit or investing that money. So if this ratio is very high, if the receivables collection period is very high, then it means that the organization is not being able to manage the debts that are there very well. Now, talking about the payables payment period, you will see two formulae written over here. First is payables divided by the reason, that is purchases, or payables divided by the cost of sales. In case you do not find the purchases in the question, you can substitute that with the cost of sales. Now, what does this indicate? This indicates how long it is taking your organization to pay your suppliers for the goods and services that you have taken on credit. Let's suppose you are manufacturing maybe water bottles. So plastic is your raw material. So plastic you have taken from one of your suppliers on credit. So the time that you are taking to pay your suppliers, that's what the payables payment period means. Talking about the next ratio, which is about the inventory holding period. Now this over here represents how long it takes for the organization to get the product sold. How long does it stay in your inventory before it finally is sold off in the market. So if this is a very high number, if the number of days are very high of the inventory holding period, this means that the organization is overproducing. They're producing more than what the customers are demanding. Hence, the goods have to be stored for a longer period of time. We skipped a little bit about the payables payment period. How do you interpret it? So if the number of payables payment period is increasing or decreasing, then this can indicate how easy or difficult it is for the organization to pay its debt. For example, if I'm taking a very long period of time, maybe the time usually which is given as credit is 2 months, and I'm paying my debts after 3 or 4 months, then that means my money management is not well. I'm not doing well financially. It could indicate potential troubles in my business. So these are the formulae in front of you, and we will now head to the ACCA study hub, wherein we continue with the Winston football factory question. Now you have to calculate the ratios which you have just learned over here. So I am just going to present my screen together so that you can see the study hub as well as the Excel. All right. So here it is. These are your activity measures. Now this is the Winston Football Factory, the same data that was there in the previous question. Now you have to calculate the ratios which you have just learned. So when you talk about the asset turnover, it's going to be your revenue divided by the capital employed. So you see how much is your revenue which has been given in the question. Revenue they have stated is 168,000. You divide this by your denominator, which is supposed to be your capital employed. Capital employed is nothing but your net assets. So we are again given with this figure 323150. So this figure is your asset turnover ratio. That means for every $1 that you had invested in the business, you were able to generate roughly 0.52 of sales because of investing that $1 in the business. Now coming to the receivables collection period, receivables is our numerator. So let's have a look. Trade receivables are given to be as 8,400. You have to divide this by your credit sales. Let's see how much the credit sales are. So you see sales revenue, which is given to you as 168. Let's read if we have any further information. Cash sales represent 20% of the total sales revenue during the year. That means if this is my total sales revenue, 20% of this is cash and 80% of this is on credit. So how can I find out my number of, how much of this figure is my credit sales? So I can simply calculate the 80% of this amount. 168,000 multiplied by 80%. So this over here is my numerator and denominator. Now I have to multiply this with 365 to find out the number of days. So this gives me roughly 22.8 days. Now coming to, just the interpretation of it is, that means we are taking 22.8 days, roughly 23 days to collect a payment from our customers. Now let's talk about the payables payment period. In your numerator, you're supposed to take your payables. So your trade payables are 1,400. This needs to be divided over here by the either the cost of sales or the purchases. Let's see what we are given with. We do not have the purchases, but we do have the production cost of sales. So this is 100,800, and this needs to be multiplied by 365 days. So what you get is 5.1 roughly days. That means you are taking a time of 5.1 days to make the payments to your suppliers. Now talking about the inventory holding period. So the formula that you see is inventory divided by the cost of sales. So let's see if we are given with the inventory. Your inventory is the closing inventory. All right. So you pick your closing inventory from here, which is given to be as 14550. This needs to be divided with the cost of sales. We just found out it was 100,800. And this figure now needs to be multiplied with 365 days. So you get 52 point roughly 7 days. So 53 days is what it takes for you to sell the inventory. Once it is in your storehouse, on your storeroom, then it'll stay there for 52 days. On the 52nd or the 53rd day, that's when the product is going to get sold. So these were your activity measures. Now, in the next video, we are going to discover what's the relationship between the return on capital employed, the return on sales, and the asset turnover. I hope that this video has made you clear about the activity measures. I'll see you in the next one.